Hey, what's up guys? It's Movie Buff Beth of the Movie Buff Pains, and I'm back again with another video. First of all, I have to apologize. It's been a couple weeks since I recorded a video. I've been getting ready to apply for grad school, and my mind's kind of been occupied in preparing for that. But I'm going to try to get back on a regular schedule and recording new videos for you guys. I'm not sure when this one's going to go up. We might have another video come up first, but definitely be on the lookout. We'll have, our monthly haul video. I'll talk about everything I watched in September, which was quite a bit, and we'll just have lots of fun stuff to share with you guys. So thanks for hanging in there and tuning in. And for those of you that may not have been keeping up with our channel, Andrew's been uploading a couple of awesome entries in his Andrew's Animation segment. He's been sharing a lot of cool stuff like DC animated movies and some more obscure animated films, so definitely check those out if you get a chance. But yeah, today we are here to do an Amityville ranking. Of course, there are a ton of films that talk about the Amityville horror story, or, at the very least, just use Amityville in the title. I decided to just stick with some of the bigger titles. Of course, we have the original trilogy, which was put out by Scream Factory. So yeah, there's the original trilogy. Of course, we'll be talking about all three of these. Also going to dive into the 2005 remake, 2017's film Amityville The Awakening. And then we'll also be delving into this awesome box set from Vinegar Syndrome, and this is called Amityville The Curse Collection. And there's actually another film that we threw in there that we watched, Andrew and I, when we were marathoning these, another one that kind of just fell in the timeline of when these were released. So again, there are a ton of Amityville films that have been made and that we could talk about, but I'm just going to stick to these 10, and I hope you guys enjoy this video. This is going to be the first of what is hopefully a little bit of a mini series for this September-October time that I'm going to call Spooky Season 2020. I love to do marathons of horror films around this time of year. Andrew and I have been watching a few series, so this one is a really fun ranking to do. I'll also definitely be doing the Conjuring universe ranked, going through and watching all of those again, so that'll be fun to share with you guys. And I'll try to have a few more themed videos that have to do with horror to kind of go into this spooky season series that I want to share with you guys. So yeah, we'll just go ahead and dive right into my ranking. Okay, so coming in at number 10 on my ranking, this is actually the only one that I don't own on physical media, but we threw it in the ranking because it was released right around the same time as the rest of these, and that is The Amityville Curse. This film was released in 1990, and we watched it on Amazon Prime Video, if you're interested in looking it up. This one, however, was my least favorite of the ones that we watched. I'll go ahead and read the synopsis real quick. I'm going to try to do that with all of these films. 5 people spend the night in an abandoned house, the Amityville Haunted House, and soon find themselves terrorized by assorted ghosts, venomous insects, and ghostly apparitions. Again, this is just a really overdone subject matter, and I think that this was a prime example of that. They were really just pulling at strings to try to come up with a story that was somewhat related to the Amityville horror. It kind of takes place outside of the mythos and outside of the backstory that's a part of all of the other films, and I would say it has less to do with the actual house than any of the other entries. They claim it's the Amityville Haunted House, but it's not the house from the original film. It was entertaining, but it was absolutely nothing new, and my biggest flaw with this film is that all of the characters were extremely unlikable. I don't think there was one character that I was rooting for to live in this film, and that's definitely a flaw. I mean, you at least have to pick out like a final girl. But yeah, there was a somewhat solid twist in this movie that kind of made it worth watching, and again, it came out in that same era as a lot of these other films. But it just didn't do much for me. I'd probably give it a 2.5 out of 5. Going forward, I will say I absolutely enjoyed all of these films. The Amityville Curse was probably the only one that I didn't really enjoy too much. I had not seen any of these films except for the remake and the original film before, so these were all first-time watches, and I have to say I really enjoyed all of these going forward, at least to some extent. Alright, so coming in at number 9 is 1983's Amityville 3D. This one, of course, is released by Scream Factory. It's a part of the original trilogy box set. To debunk the Amityville house's infamous reputation and take advantage of a rock-bottom asking price, skeptical journalist John Baxter buys the place and settles in to write his first novel. But as soon as the ink on the deed has dried, people who have come into contact with John and the house begin to meet with shocking fates. Is it all just coincidence, or is the house really the gateway to hell? This is kind of the subject matter of several of the Amityville entries. The question is whether or not the house is haunted or something terrible just happened there. And for some reason, people keep wanting to test their fate and find out if it truly is haunted. This one's kind of fun. It's very cheesy. Of course, it has the shtick of being 3D. And so there's lots of really funny scenes where things are just coming right at the camera, and it was really fun at this era, you know, like Friday the 13th Part 3 was similar. You do have a young Lori Loughlin and Meg Ryan, which I have to mention, just kind of funny. Again, just really goofy 3D gimmicks, but very entertaining. It has some creepy scenes, but overall it's not great. Again, it's my least favorite that's in the continuity, but it does have enough fun to really benefit from watching it. Overall, I would give this one a 3 out of 5. All right, diving into the Vinegar Syndrome box set, we have 1993's Amityville: A New Generation. Photographer Keyes is given an old mirror from a homeless person he photographs on the street, takes it home, and gives it a friend. He doesn't know yet that people see horrible things happen to themselves in the mirror, and later these things come true. Are these really suicides, or is there a demonic force behind the mirror? So this is the first one that I'm going to talk about, where it's a cursed object from the Amityville house, which is basically what this box set from Vinegar Syndrome is all about. This is a kind of a fun new take on the Amityville house. Instead of people just moving in to see if it's really haunted, they're taking an item from the original house and it's haunting them in other places. I think this is kind of a fun way to refresh the story idea, although it was a little overdone because they did it a few times, but this one was fun. It had a cool connection to the original movies and a pretty solid story. It had some effective scares and some great effects. Overall, I would give this one a 3 out of 5 as well, but I did enjoy it a tad more than Amityville 3D. Next up in my ranking, I have 2017's Amityville The Awakening. I'm sure a lot of people rolled their eyes when this one was released just because there's been so many attempts at doing the Amityville story, but I will say this one kind of was a breath of fresh air. Belle, her little sister, and her comatose twin brother move into a new house with their single mother Joan in order to save money to help pay for her brother's expensive health care. But when strange phenomena begin to occur in the house, including the miraculous recovery of her brother, Belle begins to suspect her mother isn't telling her everything, and soon realizes they moved into the infamous Amityville house. So this one takes place completely separately from the universe of the Amityville horror films. In fact, it takes more of a meta approach to the story, where this is a universe where the movies exist. Of course, the Amityville horror murders actually happened, but the movies are all fiction. And I thought this was kind of a cool take on the story to kind of spice it up and change things. Of course, this stars Bella Thorne, Jennifer Jason Leigh. You also have Cameron Monaghan from Shameless, who plays the comatose brother. There were some decent performances in this. I don't think there was anything great. However, Jennifer Jason Leigh gave a pretty creepy performance, and I appreciated that. I always like her. The CG was not great. It was very distracting in some scenes, especially when you're looking at the comatose brother. You know, he's obviously supposed to look like he's very gaunt and very unhealthy, and that's obviously all CG, and it just did not look great. But again, it was a very fun meta spin on the story. I just wish they hadn't rushed the ending as much as they did, but overall, I definitely enjoyed this one, and I would say that it's an underrated entry in the series. I know a lot of people hated it, but I had some fun with it. I give this one a 3 out of 5. Going back to the Curse collection from Vinegar Syndrome, we have 1996's Amityville Dollhouse. A dollhouse that is a replica of the infamous Amityville haunted house is given to a little girl. Soon after, all sorts of horrible, unexplained accidents start to happen. The family must work together to fight off the terrifying evil that has inhabited their lives. So this one obviously is a little bit different than the other cursed films, whereas it's not necessarily an item from the house. However, it's a replica of the original Amityville house. So again, kind of a cool spin on the story. It's a little hokey at times, but I have to admit this film is a lot of fun. I'm going to say that a lot because this series just is a lot of fun. The dollhouse is a fun gimmick, although I will say that it was not utilized enough throughout the film. I would have liked to have seen it used a little bit more. But again, it was a fun gimmick, a cool tie to the Amityville house. There was some really good character development in this film, which kind of surprised me, you know, just going into it. But it was a little slow at times. However, there were some really creative scares, like a giant rat. I should mention that this family is like a mixed family, kind of a yours, mine, and ours type situation. And the older brother puts a fake spider in a piñata to scare his little brother, his little stepbrother, and then, you know, of course, they break open the piñata and the spider has somehow become real. So yeah, there were some really cool creative scares in the movie, and overall I would say that I enjoyed this one quite a bit, and this one is my first 3.5 out of 5 from the series. Alright, coming in at number 5 is the 2005 remake of the Amityville Horror starring Ryan Reynolds. Now thankfully this is a time when I actually saw the remake after the original, so I feel like I can have a somewhat fair view of the film. Of course, this is the hair-raising remake of the 1979 horror hit, and it depicts the ordeal of the Letts clan, whose new home has a gory past and a legacy of demons. Before long, the family patriarch is plagued by nightmares, and his daughter is seeing phantoms. It's definitely a solid remake. I've seen far worse horror remakes that just have absolutely no purpose at all. It doesn't change a ton from the original story. However, I will say that Ryan Reynolds was not quite as convincing as James Brolin in the original film. There wasn't quite as much character development. You know, very slowly in the original film, James Brolin becomes more and more scary. Whereas in this one, I feel like you don't even have enough of a chance to really appreciate Ryan Reynolds, you know, as this loving father. And I just feel like there should have been a little bit more character development to it. But overall, it's pretty solid. Again, it doesn't have a ton to offer compared to the original, but if someone just wants to watch it and see what the hype is all about, then it's definitely well worth a watch. It has some good scares and a decent performance from Ryan Reynolds. I'd give this one a 3.5 out of 5. Next up, from 1992, of course, we have Amityville 1992, It's About Time. Another one from the Vinegar Syndrome Curse collection. When an old clock arrives at home as a gift, strange things begin to happen. The family that proudly assigned a privileged place to the clock in the living room is unaware that the thing is a link to an old and evil house. So this is the second time where we're taking an object from the original Amityville house and putting it somewhere else, and it causes scary things to happen. And this family is completely unaware of the Amityville house and everything that happened within it. This movie has a real like dreamlike quality to it, which I really enjoyed, that really wasn't present anywhere else in the series. It has some really cool scares and effects, an interesting story, and a really cool twist on the original, with this haunted item. And it just has that awesome 90s horror film feel to it that I enjoyed quite a bit. This one I would give a 3.5 out of 5, another solid entry in the series. Now going into my favorite from the Curse collection, we have 1989's Amityville IV, The Evil Escapes. The demonic force lurking in Amityville for over 300 years escapes to a remote California mansion. It encounters a struggling family living together by uncertain means. The beast manipulates a little girl by manifesting itself in the form of her dead father. Soon it will be able to possess her completely. Is it too late for a young priest to defeat the demon and end the curse? So this is the first time where the evil takes place outside of the house, which was really exciting for us. It's a refreshing setting because at this point, you're pretty sick of seeing the Amityville house. It had some really cool tie-ins to the first film, like someone's trying to make a phone call to warn them of the evil, but they are unable to, which is something that we saw in the original film. It had some really effective and creepy scares, really pretty decent for a made-for-TV film, which this one is. And I would just say this is my absolute favorite from beyond the original trilogy. This is a 3.5 out of 5 for me. And if you're going to dive into any of the sequels, I would say this one. So of course, coming in at number 2 on my ranking is the second film in the series, and that's 1982's Amityville II, The Possession. This one really surprised me. This was a great film. Eager to start afresh, the unsuspecting couple of Anthony and Dolores Montelli, along with their 4 children, move into their dream house in Amityville. However, right from the very first night, strange paranormal experiences shatter the Montelli's fantasy, as the restless spirits of the dead and the new home's dark secrets open the unfathomable black portal of hell. Now the family's older child, Sonny, has become the perfect vessel of destruction, as the invisible demonic forces claim his soul. Can Father Frank Adamski cleanse the infernal Amityville house? Again, this one was really a great film. Outside of the first film, none of these are great films, but I think that this was a really well done horror film. It has a really cool backstory that delves into the mythos of the Amityville house and what the evil really is. It had some really good performances, some really creepy scenes, and I was pretty surprised by the third act. I kind of thought I knew where it was going, and it went a different direction, and I appreciated that. Again, this one just has some great tension, really builds upon the first film and adds something new to it, instead of just playing off the same old story that we've seen again and again and again. I enjoyed this film quite a bit. I would give it a 4 out of 5. So of course that leaves none other than 1979's The Amityville Horror. You guys probably all know the plot by now, but I'll go ahead and read the synopsis to you real quick. George Lutz and his wife Kathleen move into their Long Island dream house with their children, only for their lives to be turned into a hellish nightmare. The legacy of a murder committed in the house gradually affects the family, and a priest is brought in to try and exorcise the demonic presence from their home. First of all, I have to say, this movie's an absolute classic. I know that it hasn't always been super well received, which kind of surprises me, having gone back and watched it. This has like 27% on Rotten Tomatoes, which I think is crazy, because this has some fantastic performances from James Brolin, Margot Kidder, Rod Steiger, just an all-star cast. And it has some really great tension, just all of the elements to come together for a great horror film. Do I think it's as great as some of the other classics? Absolutely not. But is it better than most B horror films? Definitely. I think that this overall is just a great film. Again, great tension building. There's some really creepy flashbacks to the original murders. Just overall a very creepy film. The only real flaw that I find with it is that it's a little long, a little slow-paced at times, but it does a great job of delving into this fear of evil that we have. Whenever something like these murders takes place, you have to wonder what drove someone to commit these heinous acts. And one of the first things we turn to is demonic and evil possession, because that's somewhat of a way to explain why someone would do something so evil. And I think that's what's so great about horror, is it allows us to take something that really scares us and take control of it and kind of face it. And I think the Amityville Horror is a great example of that. And overall, I just think it's a great film. This series was a lot of fun. Going in, I had very low expectations because, again, there's so many Amityville movies, but I was pleasantly surprised by a lot of these and genuinely enjoyed all of them except for the Amityville Curse. And that's saying something in a series of 10 films. All of which we watched in one day, by the way. It was pretty wild. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with this series. Overall, I would recommend every film to you guys. Check out these box sets from Scream Factory and Vinegar Syndrome. Check out the remake. Check out The Awakening. Let me know what you guys think. If there's a horror series or a horror director's filmography that you guys would like to see me rank, let me know. I'll try to do it for this spooky season 2020. Definitely my favorite time of year. Wish it was cooling down here. We'll get there soon. But I want to thank you guys for watching. Of course, thanks for supporting our YouTube channel. We're going to try to keep putting content out there for you guys. And as always, take care, and we will see you next time.